I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you and welcome to our class on parenting your adult children. And it's a little flip in there because of just something that, a conversation that we'll have briefly. When I was thinking about the title of this, because I have shared this before in a different setting. Actually, the first time I shared this information was working with some folks who had been incarcerated, and they had been away from their children. And so now they're back home, and they're trying to figure out, wow, how do I navigate this? I've been away from my kids. Now they're not the little kids that they were when I left. Now some of them were teenagers, they were little kids, and some of them were teenagers, and now they're young adults. And so they were having a hard time. So I shared this information, some of this information with them in that setting. But it's going to be fun and interesting to share this information with those of you who are here today. Because when you think about the title, Parenting Your Adult Children, it really is almost like an oxymoron, because they're adults, but then we're calling them children. So that's why I put up there, I lined out the word children, because sometimes when we say that word, when we're dealing with them, we think of them as that. You know, emotionally, mentally, we think of them, oh, that's my baby. And of course, no matter how old your youngest child is, you always think of them as your baby. That's my baby. Your baby is 35. And your baby is like, okay, Mom, I'm not a baby anymore, but fine, you know. And so those are some things that we want to talk about. Bishop, did you want to open with something?
Thank you for being here in our presentation. And honestly, I'm here just to kind of blend in and chime in. We call it every now and then on some things that may be a blessing, but this is really her niche, if you will. We do a lot of marriage families. Many of you know we've done marriage seminars here and things like that. I do a lot of family and marriage things, but I really lean on her so far as her clinical part of it, and I will bring some practical things, also some spiritual things into it, but I'm going to mainly be meaning on purposely leaning on her in this session, so I hope you enjoy.
All right, so let's start this with the next slide. That slide says, what is parenting? Well, what is parenting? We were talking about parenting our young adult children or our adult children, but what is parenting? So I'll read this. There's some bullet points here. So parenting is the process of raising a child from birth to independent adulthood. It's facilitating the upbringing of a child through all stages of development, and you've heard different ones talk about those stages of development throughout our presentations. It's about caring for and nurturing a child, fulfilling the parental responsibilities that accompany child raising, like providing a home, clothes, you know, access to education, those things, emotional support, you know, social support, religious indoctrine, you know, making sure that they have their relationship with the Lord. The act of caring for a child rather than the biological connection to a child. So some of us may have been step-parents, may have been foster parents, may have been a grandparent raising a child. It's not always the person that gave birth, you know, who we can think of as the parent of that child. Establishing a healthy environment as the child grows, taking actions to ensure social development and education that aligns with your values, providing a financially stable home, and that does not mean being wealthy. It means providing the needs, the basic needs of that child. We used to, you know, tell our kids, hey, you don't have to have the things that you have. You don't have to have all this name brand stuff. You don't have to have all the latest fashions. As long as we have a roof over your head, and this is when they would be a little ungrateful. As long as there's a roof over your head, you're sleeping inside, You have access to education. We could go to the grocery store and buy you some jeans and tennis shoes and things like that. And the judge could not take you from us because we're providing your needs. But sometimes we get caught up in trying to, I think, make the children look good because it makes us look good, right? Okay. Adjusting to the challenging needs of a child as they grow and develop. So that's part of what parenting is. And it happens in various ways. We have different styles, different ways. We have different theories on, thought processes on parenting. We have different backgrounds. And so let me just start here by saying, or asking you, what kind of parent were you or are you if you are still parenting children? What kind of parent, think about it. What kind of parent were you? Authoritative, and I'll go through what these are. Authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, uninvolved, or neglectful, or traditional. So let's look at those styles. So the authoritative parent style is accepted as the healthiest, most positive of all the styles. It is a child-centered and responsive style. Parents are openly affectionate. They treat kids with respect, talking to them and listening to them with attention. These parents, and I want to put a pin right there, because one of the things I think has affected this is the fact that we have these. It's not just the kids. Sometimes, I'm a people watcher, and so I'll be watching. I work with foster youth. Now I work with Office of Refugee Resettlement, so it's a different kind of foster care. But before, I used to monitor visits between children and their biological parents, and I would watch. And so one of the first things I would see a parent do is bring this out. So they would bring it out for a couple of reasons. So some of the reasons would be, I want to get a new picture of you. I don't have an old picture. That's fine. They can take a picture. And then some of them would take this out and they would say, I want to FaceTime with grandma so she can see you. And in some cases, that was okay. And then there was this other part where they were supposed to be having a visit and the parents said, come on, let's watch a movie. So there was no interaction. Because you think about it. If you go out on a date with somebody, right, and you go to dinner, there's interaction, right? You're talking, hopefully. You're talking, engaging. But then think about it. When you go to a movie, what are you doing? You're sitting there watching the movie, and there's no talking because people in the movie theater are going to be like, shh, be quiet, But think about it. If a parent is engaging with their child with this or with the iPad, here, let me put this movie on, there's no engagement. And so this is part of one of the things that's kind of blocking some of that interaction. Okay, some of the interaction that that we should be having with our kids is putting this away. Dr. Bianca said it today, sometimes going off the grid with the social media, and then sometimes just shutting down the phones. One of my kids, whenever we all get together, and they're all adults, she's always like, put that phone away. Everybody, my granddaughter especially, if we all go out to dinner, she's like, everybody has to put their phone away. Because it's so easy to get caught up in your emails and IG and all that kind of stuff that we do all the time, nonstop almost. And then these parents who are authoritative, these parents are nurturing and appropriately involved in their children's lives, okay? So we're busy with our kids. We're child-centric, but we are also couple-centric if you have a significant other. But the child-centric is you're involved in their interests. You're trying to make sure that they become this well-rounded person, that they have all the exposures that they need. that are right for their age. Then there is authoritarian, which is different from authoritative. So authoritarian parenting style is unresponsive, right? It's highly controlling. They demand mature behavior beyond what's age appropriate. So these are the types of parents that are expecting little people to be little adults. Why would you do that? Why would you say that? You know, why would you do that? Well, because he's 5. That's why he did that. You know, 5-year-olds are going to do what 5-year-olds do. You know, don't talk to me like that. Talk to me. Use your words. Say that word correctly. And there's nothing wrong with teaching our children how to speak correctly and use their words and all of that. But sometimes you have to expect a 4-year-old to have a meltdown. They're going to do it. My niece has twins, beautiful babies, and they're 4 years old. They just started school. So she called us the other day. Well, she called me, and she said, Adonis is having trouble in school. He's not adjusting. He's this, he's that. He had a whole meltdown in class, and they called me, and the social worker called me. Are they going to come get my babies? And I was like, whoa, hold it, calm down. First of all, the school social worker is not the person with the county who's going to come take your baby from you. Trust me, the county does not want your children. They have a plenty, okay? And they're trying to get them back where they belong. That's really their goal. So I told her, I said, what's going on? And she talked to me about what's going on with Adonis. I'm like, he's 4. That's what 4-year-olds do. 4-year-olds don't know how to say, well, Mom, I'm really scared. I've never been in this class before. I've never been with like 20 other kids. It's always been me and my sister at the daycare. So I'm just a little nervous. They're not gonna say that, right? So they're going to act out.
The other was a social butterfly.
And the other one is her mom. She's a social butterfly. You know, oh, she would say, oh, I love your shirt. It's so pretty. That's her personality. So they're different. And so that was something that we had to talk to her about. Is like, no, you cannot expect Adonis to be ready for school. I said, think about it. They were in daycare where they were the youngest kids there. So they had the spotlight and the stage. Now everyone doted over them. Now they have to share the stage and the spotlight with 20 other kids. So calm down, girl. Okay, so highly controlling, they demand mature behavior. So I told her, stop expecting him to behave like a 10-year-old when he's a 4-year-old in pre-K. It's not gonna happen. So they talk at their children rather than to them. They do not listen to their kids' opinions or thoughts. It's okay to do that. Not only do they show little affection, but authoritative parents also expect kids to stay out of the way. Out of sight, out of mind. Kids go in that room. Don't come in here talking to us as adults. Now, we do need to set boundaries, don't get me wrong. There should be boundaries in place. Children should know their place. But we should be answering their questions. They have questions. And one thing I don't like to hear parents say is stop asking so many questions. Well, kids are inquisitive. They don't know anything or everything. They try to act like they do, but they don't. And they have questions. So it is our job to answer their questions. And it's our job to be honest if we don't know the answer. So Bishop and I, we discovered this, right, in pastoring a church now opposed to pastoring the church when we first started. So you could get up here and you could say whatever. So you're going to take a note. You got to go home, look up what you heard me say, and then you come back and go, Bishop, I don't know if what you said was the correct thing. Now we have young people who are sitting in your churches with these, fact-checking you, right? All the time. And so you think about it, it's like, you got to know what you're talking about. So if you don't know what you're talking about, if you don't know the answer to the question, you should say, I don't know. That's a good question. I love the fact that Dr. Bianca, when there was a question asked, she said, that's a good question. She didn't just show up like she knew everything, because we don't know everything. And so we should answer their questions. So next slide. Okay, so the permissive, so we're still with these parenting styles. So the permissive parent, we talked about this a little bit. I think Dr. Robinson talked about it a little bit, about trying to be the friend. So the permissive parent style is very responsive to their child and aren't at all demanding at all, not at all. Their kids do as they please with little, if any, interferences. Permissive parenting types want to be a friend rather than a parent. Accordingly, they do not enforce the rules they set. So they'll say, you know, the rule is, that's okay, you know, we'll get it done the next time. We'll get it, you'll do it right the next time. These parents aren't as nurturing and affectionate as authoritative parents. They're just kind of like, they want everybody to stay happy, be happy, and, you know, that's it. We want it easy peasy. We don't want anybody upset. We just want everyone to just do what they want to do. Then the uninvolved. The uninvolved parent style shows disinterested and unresponsive. They are disinterested and unresponsive to their kids, the needs of their children, all of that. Children of these parents largely raise themselves because their parents don't spend time with them or give them much attention. They don't ask about school activities, nor do they know who their kids spend time with or with what they do. They don't know anything. So you ask this parent, this uninvolved parent, or the neglectful parent, you ask this parent, so how did Johnny do at his football game the other week? I don't know, I didn't even go. I just dropped him off and let him do his thing, you know? Or how is he doing in school? I don't know. And here's the thing, now they make it easy for you to find out what your kids are doing. And you get on the computer, you go to that website, and the teachers are putting the grades. They're uploading all their scores and everything. Real time, they're supposed to anyway. Real time. And so you can always be involved. You can sit down and have, well, remember we talked about it last night, you can have family time. You can have those family meetings. Kind of find out what's going on with your kids. Ask them questions about their friends, not invasive questions. So how's Betty? How's she doing? Okay, I haven't seen her in a long time. Is she gonna come by and spend time? Find out what's going on with them. And sometimes they'll open up and just start talking to you about what's going on. And you can't be like, what? You guys did what? No, chill, pull back, because then they'll stop talking to you. So you wanna take it in, ask God to help you. Lord Jesus.
We have some woo-saw moments like, hey, babe, whoo. You know, try to not show them any expression, but go back like, woo, I wasn't ready for that.
Right.
And some stuff I really wasn't ready for, but go ahead.
So I like it. I like the fact that they talk to us, but some of the things they tell us I'm not ready for, but they'll never know that I'm not ready for it. Okay? And then there's other styles. So instinctive parenting, which people parent the way that they were raised. So it's like, it was good enough for me, it's good enough for you. That's not always true, because some of that wasn't good for us. Some of that wasn't good for us or to us. Attachment parenting, in which bonding with the child is paramount. That's the main thing. And you can see sometimes those kids are a little clingy. They have attachment issues. Then the helicopter parenting, in which parents hover over like a helicopter, interfering with their kids' life and everything. And if you start as a helicopter parent, more than likely you're going to keep being a helicopter parent until you learn better, even when they become adults. Shame-based parenting involves anger, punishment, and shaming. And we see this as well. It's kind of connected to the neglectful, uninvolved. And then positive parenting is rooted in positive psychology and seeks to develop happy, involved, goal-oriented kids. And you see this a lot. We see this a lot in other cultures, okay? So those are the parenting styles. So you think about, you know, should be mulling over in our minds, What kind of parent was I? And you may have started out at one kind of parent. You may have started out as one type. But then maybe as the child changed, you evolved with them. I forget who it was that said it last night, that we grow too as parents. Even when our children are maturing and they're growing, they're evolving, we are too. I'm not in any way the same mom that I was when my oldest daughter, who is now 30, gonna be 38 in a couple months, I am not in any way the same mom to her. And they swear I'm not the same mom to them as I am to the 21-year-old. So they were like, you let her do what I was like, look, we tired. we tired, okay?
That was 10 years after her brother.
That was 11 years after her brother. And they're like, you just let her do that? You let her say that? I'm like, look, nobody dying around here. It's all good. We're good. So that's pretty much how that goes. So two of the important things, the most important things in parenting are these two things, love and consistency. Making sure that everything that we do and as it relates to our kids and raising them and providing for them and parenting them and is done with love, and we're being consistent in doing that. So let me show you why love and consistency are so important. So it enhances brain growth. It enhances self-confidence. It gives children strength to face adversities, and a sense of security and an ability to handle boundaries. So if we are doing this, because consistency is really related to setting boundaries, right? When you're doing something consistently, that means you have set a rule or something in place where we're saying, this is what we do, this is how we do it, here's the boundary, we're not gonna go beyond that. You know, maybe we have this much space to work within this, and that's how that's gonna go. And then we are consistent in that, you know, because when we're not consistent in that, then kids, they are smart. They are smart. They are smart. So if you keep saying, and we learned this, if we kept saying, if you keep doing that, I'm gonna get you, and then you never get them. And so it's like, oh, she's just talking. My son was good at that. Right? He knew. He'd be like, okay. And I'd be like, William, I told you, if you do that one more time, you're going to be on punishment. Okay, Mom. And it never happened because I was not being consistent. I gave the rule, but I didn't follow through with what the consequences were going to be if you broke the rule. And so when we figured that out, then our parenting, it got bumped up. It really did take a shift. So that's why it's important for our kids to know that they are loved, because it enhances physical things, self-conscious things, you know, emotional things, all kinds of things in them. And then consistency. Consistency provides children with a foundation that allows them to understand your expectations, like I said, predict, and to help them to predict your reactions if you're consistent in it. And to learn how to modify their behavior. It's good for them to learn how to modify their own behavior. You know what? I'm going to think about that. I'm not going to do that because I know my mom, and their running joke for me was, my mom is crazy. So it's just certain things we don't do. Now, I never harmed any of them, but that threat was there. And then consistency puts action behind your words, and it proves that you do mean what you say, making you a trustworthy and dependable parent. So think about that. Think about that. If you are consistent in your boundaries, in what the consequences are, that makes you trustworthy and dependable, because your kids are looking at you like, no, if she said she's gonna do that, then trust, that's what she's going to do. And then consistency prohibits you as a parent from disciplining your child with emotional reactions instead of carefully chosen consequences. There was one time my daughter did something, and when she, Oh, the next slide. I'm sorry. We're on the next slide. Okay. So my daughter did something one time, and I was so angry with her. I was so angry with her. Because I was angry because what she did was something I told her not to do. I talked to her. I told her, don't do this, don't do it, don't open that door. I'm going to the grocery store. At that time, she was like 11 or 12. She had a brother and a sister there. I said, this is the first time I'm leaving you home. I'm going to the grocery store. It's around the corner. Do not open that door. I don't care who comes to the door. His parents lived around the corner. I said, if Granny and Papa come, don't open that door. If you hear the doorbell ring, somebody knocks on it, don't even go to the door. Just stay upstairs. Now, I said that 10 or 12 times, right? So I went to the grocery store, which was around the corner. I came back in 30 minutes, and guess what? The neighbor was at my door. No, she was at my garage. She said, Ervin, you left your kids at home? I said, I went to the grocery store just for 30 minutes. I came right back. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what she said. She said, I should have called the police on you. Yes, ma'am. And I said, well, thank you for not calling the police on me. And I closed the garage, and I went inside, and I looked at my daughter, because she was standing there. She could hear her. I said, I thought I told you not to open the door. I know, but little John kept knocking on the door like he knew we were here. I said, what did I tell you? I said, if Granny and Pawpaw come, don't open the door. What did I tell you? Tell me what I told you. You said go upstairs, stay in the room. And what did you do? I opened the door. I said, go upstairs. I can't even talk to you right now. It was 8:30 that night before I was able to talk to her. We have to know how to discipline our kids. You cannot discipline them in anger. If you discipline them in anger, you're going to hurt them. And I knew that if I dealt with her, I probably would have grabbed her by her neck and choked her because I was so angry. And I had to think about it. That was my biggest thing about the anger was coming from my embarrassment. It wasn't even about the fact that it could have been an unsafe situation because it wasn't. So I didn't dwell on that. My anger was about me being embarrassed. So that was an honest thought. So let me ask you guys this question. I want you all to talk to me. Next slide, I'm sorry. Is there still time to parent your adult child? You guys answered that. Do we have another mic in here? Yes. Okay. Is there still time? Somebody? There's one person.
Yes, I believe there's still time to parent your adult children because your children are still wanting your opinion a lot of times, and they're wanting your approval. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there is, as long as there's breath in both of your bodies, there is time. Okay.
So she said they still want our opinion and our approval. Okay, so somebody else, we have someone over here. Is there still time to parent your young adult child?
For me, at this phase, I feel like I'm not parenting my adult children. I function more as a consultant.
There you go.
So they may ask for my advice, I may volunteer my advice, but ultimately they will come to that decision about how they move forward. I don't always agree, but I have to allow them to live with the reward or the consequence of the decisions that they make. So I don't feel like I'm parenting, but I feel like I'm a consultant. And I had to learn that there was a different role for me once they got of a certain age.
Yeah. Anyone else?
So my son and I had this conversation about a couple of months ago, and it was about learning how to do his taxes. He said, Dad, I had to learn that because you didn't teach me that, and now it's too late to be able to teach it to me. So I had to take a step back and be more of a consultant, like my wife is saying, but it was that, man, there's some things I miss in parenting. Now, I tried to, my wife will tell you, we had one. It was like, I'm a man now, I'm 25, but he was physically 25, but some of the things he was saying, it was as if he was a 12 or 14 or 16-year-old when he was in high school. So I had to really take my wife's advice and say, okay, be a consultant and be more of a listener, because she tells me this all the time. Listen more than you're saying, because you can learn a lot what they're saying when you say, hey, I'm parenting you now. No, at 18, he put that 18-year-old hat on, that adult hat on, wasn't ready for it, but I had to really do what my wife was saying. Be more of a listener and a consultant.
While you're moving the mic, I call it gently guiding, just to gently guide. Yeah, I try to gently guide now, because in some children, her hand is up, if some children like a few of mine, whatever you say, they're going to do the opposite anyway. So I found it best like, okay, Let them stumble upon like, oh, good idea, like it's their idea. Good idea, you know.
Have at it. Have at it. There was one other person.
I'm parenting my adult children through prayer, because it seems that's the only hope that I have, because they are, my oldest is 47, the youngest is 40, I believe, somewhere in there. Yeah, 40. And so they're sitting there where it's their parents, you know, one of them is even a grandparent. So it's really, it seems very difficult to lead them and guide them, because they are so set in their ways, and I believe they feel like they are too grown to be parented by me. So I parent my children through prayer, and believe me, and I ask the Holy Spirit for guidance in certain areas with them, because I know people have said this all the time, all I can do is pray for them. It's serious. That prayer that I pray daily for my children is very serious. And then I have to listen to God to tell me to either step back and let them succeed or let them fail and learn their lessons.
Very good. So listen, the parenting part, if we have not done the parenting part before they become adult age, then there's no way for us to go back and parent. There's no way for us to go back and parent them through those other stages, because they've already passed those stages. Whether they were able to mature during those stages or not, whether they were able to get what they needed or to develop correctly in those stages or not, there's no way for us to go back and reparent. Junebug, who's laying on the couch at 25, there's no way for you to go, you cannot parent Junebug, right? Apparently, whatever it was that you did, let's take responsibility, right? Whatever it was that we did or did not do during that time that makes Junebug think that it is okay for him to be 35 laying on your couch, no job, no nothing, just chilling, right? Hanging out with the guys and, you know, coming home high, drinking, whatever it is that he is doing, she is doing. Whatever we did, there was something that we have to take accountability for back then. But there's no way for us to parent our adult children. They're our kids, right? So I like to call them our adults. Those are our adults, our young adults. Okay, because sometimes, like I said in the very beginning, when we say children, sometimes we treat them as such. Okay, so now the consultant, right? We are mentors. You know, we are guidance counselors, if you will. We help them in those ways. You know, and when they come to us for advice, we give it. If they come to us, if we see them going a direction, they didn't ask for our advice, what we gonna do? We're gonna pray. We're gonna pray. Yeah. So I get when we say that we're parenting our adult children, we really can't parent them at this point because they are adults.
Okay, I am the adult child. Okay, I'm not a parent, but I'm the adult child. And I just, listening to this, I thank God for my parents. Now, my parents was born in 1920s, 1930s, way back in those days. But I don't know if it's because my dad was military and my mom was a nurse, they had this thing where, since we were yay high, that we were able to talk to them. And sometimes if they see things, even as an adult, even in college, you know, my mom said, well, come, let's go have lunch. Talk to me. You know, and I thank God for that. And even my dad, when I started voting, you know, with politics, when I did, you know, 18, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what's going on here so much. So me and my dad actually sat down and ate a hamburger, and we talked about politics, even as an adult. And even in my 40s, because they passed away in my 40s, my mom could sense when something was going on with me. So she said, you know, you want to go to Duran's and have lunch? Because that was my favorite place to go have lunch. And I see my older brothers and sisters, they do that as well, because some of them were 20 years old when I was born. But I thank God for that open door, but it started since I was little, while I was able to talk to my parents. And they will open up the door for us to have conversation with them. Good. And I thank God for that.
Amen. That's good. Next, go to the next slide. So these are some things that young people say determines, this is what they say, determine adulthood, okay? It says, taking response, so these are the percentages. They said that 80% of being an adult is taking responsibility for my actions, okay? Then 79, some of them say 79% of it is being financially independent. Then 76% being able to look after myself, taking care of myself. Then 74% making my own choices, okay? That's what determines me being an adult. 40% being settled into a career. 26% having at least one child makes them an adult. Then 26%, they say that 26% of what determines you being an adult is reaching the legal age of adulthood. Because the truth of the matter is, even though adults, 18-year-olds say, I'm grown, I'm grown, I'm grown, I'm grown, they are really very scared. You remember getting ready to graduate from high school? I was shaking in my boots. I didn't know what the next page or stage or whatever in my life, what was going to happen at that point. I was afraid. And I remember my mom told me to go register for college. I had got accepted into college, and she said, okay, well, go up there and get your classes. I was like, well, what do you mean go? Go do what? Where do I go? I don't know where to go. She said, when you get there, somebody will tell you where to go. And I was like, oh my God. So, and then 22, being married. They say that's what makes you an adult. Okay, so psychological characteristics were considered much more than important than being an adult compared with the traditional milestones like marriage, parenthood, or the legal markers of adulthood, such as reaching the age of 18. So these young people, they're kind of thinking different than we think they're thinking. Being responsible, financially independent, because they know that that's not really what being an adult is. So there was a study that showed, explored family relationships and found that 7% of adult children had cut ties with their mother, and 27% had cut ties with their father. And then in 2020, another study showed that 1 in 4 Americans were estranged from their families. That's roughly 68 million people. That's like 25%. And the top reasons for this was the cutoff, toxic behavior, so having issues in the family, differences in values, a lack of support, physical or emotional or sexual abuse, failure to empathize, and then not getting with the changing of times, not being accepting of that. So what do our young adults need? What do our adults need from us? You know, you think about it. So what do they need? Because the parenting part is over. If we have not accomplished that, if we have not taught them all kinds of things that they need to know at the certain stages and ages that they were at, during the appropriate times, then, you know, there's no way for us to go back and parent. Now, we can be a mentor and say, hey, you didn't get this when you were 15, but hey, let me mentor you in this area. Let me be a consultant for you in this area. Okay? So, remember, you raised an individual, not a replica. So that's the first thing. They are not a replica of us. That's not the goal, is to raise a mini-me. Right? Because if we tell the truth, there are so many things about ourselves that we're not real happy about, right? Some behaviors, some things we wish we did, we didn't do, some things that we did do, we wish we had not done, you know, so the goal should not be to raise a replica of ourselves. But what our young people need, you want to do this part?
Remember, you raised the individual, not a replica. And the first point is open communication. Open communication. All right. And like we said before, sometimes it can be fearful. Because you say open, they be like, okay, I'm about to say it. Because this generation don't hold back much at all. They say things in front of me I would never say in front of my parents. I don't mean cussing or swearing, nothing like that, just topics that they bring. It's like, whoa, I would never discuss it with my parents, you know. But anyway, they're more vocal, much more vocal than we were in the past. Respect of life choices, and that's a broad area, but there's some choices they make we're not quite happy with, but it is what it is. My thing is, if you make the bed, be able to lie in it. Be able to deal with your situations, your circumstances, whatever you got going on, make sure you can handle it. You know, I'm just using an example. You want to have 5 babies out of wedlock? Don't expect me to watch them every night. Make sure you can handle it. Make sure you got that. That's what you decide to do. You know, that's not what we're teaching you, the principles we're teaching you. You go out and do it. You're going to handle the responsibility of it. Yes, I'm going to love my grandchildren. I'm going to care for them and that kind of thing. But I'm not going to take on that responsibility as it's mine because you've been warned. And you've been told, and you became a repeat offender. We all sin comes short, and I don't even call it bad, I don't even call it a mistake. It's a bad decision. After a while, you're making bad decisions. You didn't make a mistake. Mistake is like, oop, I stepped in dog poop. Come on, talk to me, somebody. Amen. But you take a stick and you stir it up, you knew you were stirring it up. Come on, because when you get to walk by that, I mean, I often say it's 3 different kinds of people. Some people, they avoid it. Some people just walking, stepped in something. As long as that person take a stick, ain't gonna stir it up. You know what I mean? So if you start stirring up stuff and you make it happen in your life, you got to deal with cleaning it up, wiping it up, whatever you got to do, make it happen. But it's tough, but it's hard. It's part of decision making. But you got to stand with your decision. You made that decision. Stand with that decision, okay? The next point is avoid overstepping. Oh, I missed that one? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I looked over there and trying to look here. I trust my eyes without glasses, okay? Respect for privacy, yes. Since I have adult children, we weren't allowed to vacation together before we got married. Our parents just didn't allow it. We got young adults now. They in Jamaica together. They over here together. They hanging out together. We doing mimosas together. We hanging out with our people and all. Just stuff I wouldn't even. And it's so much more out there now because of social media. Hey, we hanging out. Okay, well, I need to know what you doing, boo. Just, keep that. But it's what they're doing. It's generations what's happening right now. I see some of y'all shake your heads like, ooh, yeah. Sometimes it's too much. Way too much, okay? Avoid overstepping. I think we kind of know what that means. Unsolicited advice or opinions. Unsolicited means they didn't ask you. You just started talking about it. Let it go. Leave it alone. Prayer, like you said, prayer, very powerful prayer. Pray for your children. Keep them in prayer. If some still stay with you, I still believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the power of anointed oil, whatever it takes. I anoint doorways still. I still anoint pillows. What ain't there? I still anoint stuff. God, in Jesus' name. The oil ain't him, but it's symbolic of the Holy Spirit, and I'm going to do what I got to do. Amen? Glory to God. So praying for them. Regular check-ins. Hey, how's it going? What's up? Anything you need to talk about? We good? All is well? Yeah, I'm good, Sometimes they're not telling the truth, but at least you made the door open. Okay, you left the door open. Emotional boundaries. I'll let you talk about that one.
Okay, all right. So regular check-ins and then emotional boundaries, right? So, there are places, a boundary is basically where you begin and I end, right? It's that fine line that divides us. And so with our kids and their emotions, sometimes we have to step back and allow them to be angry, allow them to be upset, allow them to be sad, but interject or provide for them what they need in that moment as they ask. They may ask us, for, like, I try to call all my kids at least one time a week, or text them at least. And so sometimes when I text them or call them, I can tell. Like my youngest one, there's a look in her eye. The baby, it's in her eyes. I can always tell when something's going on. And she's one of the ones that suffers from anxiety. She has social anxiety. She also deals with depression. And so I know there's a look in the eye. And so I don't approach her with, what's going on? What's happening? Are you okay? I approach her with, everything good? Anything you need me for anything? I'm here if you need me. And sometimes she'll go, no, Mom, I'm okay. She'll go away, and then maybe about 30 minutes later or an hour later, she'll come back and go, can I talk to you? And I don't hit her with I tried to talk to you just 30 minutes ago. You didn't want to talk, that type of thing. I'll be like, yeah, sure. I'll put away whatever I'm doing, and we have that conversation. But it's because, there's a boundary there. I'm not trying to dig out of her what's going on. I'm not trying to just, make her tell me what's happening with her. Sometimes it's just a matter of me going into my prayer closet. Lord, I don't know what's happening with my child right now. I don't know what she's feeling. But God, I pray, Lord, that you would just keep her in this moment. Okay? And then financial boundaries. We know what those are, right? We start paying for everything, taking care of everything, backing them up on everything. Oh, you done got yourself in financial straits. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. I ain't going to give you no more money after this. This is it. No, it's not. It's not. Because you really have not set a boundary. You have not set a boundary. Sometimes they need to know what it's like for that light to be turned off. Sometimes. I guarantee you, if that happens at least one time, they will not go spend that money on making it rain or whatever they was doing, right? Irresponsible. Now, if I have a child like my daughter who has a daughter, she's a hard worker. She's a business owner. She is very responsible. And if she needs us, if she come to us and ask for her assistance, she needs it. Because she's not one to be frivolous and irresponsible with her money and all that kind of stuff. And then celebrating differences. Let's celebrate that we're different. Let's celebrate that we're different. Flexibility, and I'm kind of rushing because they told me 12:30 is it. Flexibility and adaptability. Sometimes we have to look inside ourselves and be as flexible as we can and adapt as much as we can to what they're saying, to what they're dealing with, to their life, what's going on. Sometimes they just want us to hear them, and to be understanding as possible. This is what our adults need from us. Now, if we've been in situations, next slide, yeah. Okay. If we are in situations where we've had a broken relationship with our young people, broken relationships between parents and their grown children are very common, because we don't always agree. We don't always agree on their lifestyle. We don't always agree on their choices. We don't always agree with the people that they deal with, that they associate with. We don't agree on their decisions for religion and all that kind of thing. We don't agree with all that all the time. And so sometimes because they're not doing what we want them to do, then sometimes we can just put up a wall and say, hey, you know, if you're not going to do it my way, then you figure it out. You go about your way and do it your way, you know. And then when they get hurt or something happens out there in that mean, cruel world, we should be that person that's open to say, hey, so I know life happened, so let's talk about it. But we shouldn't be that person that said, well, I told you not to get out there and do that. You had, oh, okay, you do. Okay. So here are some things. Let's look at this. Next slide, please. Remember that you're dealing with an adult. No matter how immature they are. Even they may be immature, but you need to treat them as an adult. Because if you never start treating them as an adult, they're not going to act like one. There's a young lady that we took on as a daughter. And, you know, she would be in and out. And so finally she told me one day, she said, why do you treat me like this? You know, I'm still your child. I said, well, first of all, you're not a child. I said, and secondly, you're the one who told me you were an adult and that I need to respect you as such. I said, and this is the way I treat adults. I said, I haven't done anything mean or cruel to you, but you are an adult, so I'm expecting you to behave as an adult. And so she was like, oh, well, okay, fine. You know, and then she started relating to me as an adult instead of a whiny, bratty kid, okay? So while you may feel that just yesterday that they were children, they are adults and they have to be treated, or they should be treated. Anything less will undermine any efforts that you make to try and bond with them as an adult. I love the fact that all our kids are adults. Now, my 21-year-old, she's still a baby. But she's very mature in so many ways. And it's just amazing. And I think it's because she's had all these adult people around her all this time. So she's kind of like saw how to do certain things. But in my heart, you know, I'm thinking, oh, that's still my baby. But I try to treat her like an adult. I do everything in my power to treat her as an adult. And when she comes to me with real adult questions, I give her real adult answers. I don't hold back. I give her the answers because I don't want her to go out in the world seeking information and somebody to give her something different. So the next slide. So not only treat them like an adult, but we have to approach them with love. Approach whatever the situation is with love. So it's difficult to face the fact that you have been wrong. So in some cases, we have been wrong. In some cases, when we're trying to repair a relationship, we're trying to repair something that has been said or done, we have to admit that we're wrong. And you know, because if you don't, this can leave you, you know, angry or leave them angry, wounded, all of that. And then like I said earlier in those statistics, where kids they're like distancing themselves from their parents, from their families. 27% from fathers. And that's scary. To think that children can think that they can just be away from their families and not have anything to do with them, but they're doing that. We need to deal with these emotions, deal with your emotions on your own, okay? Don't bring all your emotions into whatever situation you're trying to heal with your young adult. Don't bring all that into that situation, but deal with it yourself prior to confronting that adult, with whatever that situation may be. And then by acting out of love instead of anger, you will stand a better chance of having an honest, open communication with them. Now, next slide. So when we're dealing with our kids, so if we're dealing with Junebug, who's 25, 35, still sleeping on the couch, he's not working, doing certain things, we have to acknowledge our contribution. What did we do? How did we allow that to happen? Okay, so there are really three sides to every story, right? So what you may have seemed loving to you or you know, something that you thought was a good idea when you were raising them, maybe it was not a good idea. Maybe it was hurtful. Maybe it was hurtful to your young adult. And maybe their development got arrested in that way. Maybe we weren't the best parent when they were coming up as teenagers. Maybe we weren't the best parents when they were in elementary school. And maybe we were working too much. Maybe we were too involved in our relationships. And maybe we just, weren't interested in being parents. I mean, there's a variety of reasons why we are not good parents. But think about it from their perspective. Think about how they feel, okay? Deal with your feelings too, but think about how that young adult person feels. And let them explain it to you. Let them tell you how they feel. No, I didn't do that. I did everything that I could. Yes, in your mind you did. And in your heart you did. But maybe they saw it from a different perspective. Try to put yourself in their place and then admit your own mistakes and apologize for your part. There's been so much healing in certain groups and groups that we've been involved with, where the parents and the young adults, right, and the parents have had healing times of healing because they were able to come together and they were able to talk it out. They were able to share, and parents were able to listen. I'm going to have to skip through some of this because we are running out of time. Let me see. I'm trying to think of which one I'm going to do as the last one. Go to the last slide. It said fixing a broken relationship. Because I think it's important, yes. So it's important for us to know this, right? Because every time we go to fix, repair, make things right, it's not always receptive. It's not always received immediately, right? So if your adult initially rejects your efforts, don't write them off. Don't give up. Don't give up. Go back to the prayer closet. Ask God to show you the way, give you the words, so that your young person can see the intention of your heart, where you're really coming from. And then let them know that you love them and that you're there whenever they're ready for it, whenever they're open to the conversation, whatever it is that they need to share with you, talk to you about, that you're open to it, and that, it'll be a safe space. And that's the important thing, is creating that safe space. And then it's just as painful. Keep this in mind, that it's just as painful for them as it is for you. And chances are they really do want to reconcile. Who wants to live on an island by themselves? Who wants to be distant from their parent? Not anyone, but sometimes they feel like they have to. They feel like they have to. So what do our young adults need? They need all those things that we said. They need, let me go back to that one slide that Bishop and I were talking about. They need us to be open communication, respect for their life choices. Didn't say we have to agree with it, but respect for their life choices, and pray about the things that we know are unhealthy. Respect for our privacy, avoid overstepping, unsolicited advice, don't give it. They don't want to hear it. They're not hearing you. Regular check-ins, emotion, and when you check in, don't go with the guilt. Well, you didn't call me, so I'm going to call you. You don't even love your mama, do you? You don't call me and see how I'm doing. Don't do that. Just call and say, hey, I haven't talked to you in a minute. How you doing? What's new? And keep it pushing. Emotional boundaries, financial boundaries, celebration of the differences. Yeah, my oldest daughter, she's like me in some ways, and in some ways she's not. And I'm happy about that. And then offering flexibility and adaptability.